So, you know, what's interesting about these three projects is not only the relationship and the development process, the collaboration with Telefilm, with our office, but they have a lot of other similarities in terms of, Tony mentioned one which is critical for everyone here in the audience and for the province, given what we just heard and what we've been hearing, is the partnership piece. And it's you know, I can't emphasize that enough. And all these three projects had partners. And maybe that's a good place to talk about, because I think that's essential. And why don't we start with Walter? The Disappeared was the first feature for Shandy, and yeah, you brought some partners on as well. So
yeah, so
interprovincial.
Yeah, it ended up being interprovincial in a way. It first started where Shandy made a short film that I executive produced, and then we went off and worked it at festivals, she and I. So it played at TIFF, and when we got back from there, I called her and said, do you have your next project that seemed to work well? A partnership, you know, that seemed to work well. And she said, I finished the draft today, let's meet. So we met at a bar, and I took the script home and read it and said, okay, let's develop it. And she's developed a few other features, and they didn't really get anywhere. And we said, well, let's fast track it 5 years ago. That was our goal, make it low budget. She said, I have it's 6 guys, 1 location, the whole film. I said, fantastic. But it was set in the ocean, open ocean. She didn't mention that when I said yes. So then we set about developing it, and we got some development money from Telefilm, and Canada Council helped us, Nova Scotia Department of Tourism, Culture, Heritage. We cobbled together some money to get the script going. And then I brought in an executive producer, because one of the rules at the time was I needed one, Gilles Belanger, and then he ended up becoming an equal producer, but then I brought in Ralph Holt and his partner, Karen Franklin, and they live in Toronto. He's born and bred Nova Scotian, and he loved to still live here, but he went to Toronto, and so we ended up doing an interprovincial co-production in a way. All the financing, all the tax credits, and everything ended up being in Nova Scotia. But his experience, having worked at Telefilm for a long time, his experience being able to have meetings with E1 and open the door with all the distributors in Toronto, his experience that way was fantastic for us. And the other partnership is Karen Franklin, his life partner, used to work at Cineplex, she used to work at Telefilm, and she is a numbers person. And so we had a numbers person, we had Gilles Belanger, who is a production manager, who has run, you know, he produced production manages Mr. D and all kinds of other shows, and has done it forever, can run a floor and spend $1 million graciously, carefully, and without going over. And then me, the little guy who has to run around and do all the grunt work. So that was the 4 producers that came on to make it work. The hard part, of course, is spreading out the producer fees amongst that. But the good part is you get all the skill sets that were needed.
Well, that's, I mean, when you went out to, I mean, I get the sort of the requirement piece where, you know, for instance, Telefilm may say, you know, you need to bring someone on board. But were you looking for complementary skill sets? Were you looking for people that could open the doors to maybe get a distributor, whatever?
Yeah, certainly with Ralph Holt, the point for me to find someone else, he had never produced a feature film before, so it wasn't bringing on someone, neither did Karen, so they weren't bringing a skill set of experience that way, but it was a skill set that they could call up anyone in the film industry in Canada and have a meeting with them. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't in that position, so that was very important to be able to meet with the Movie Central and you know, Kim, and that was a really important component for me to bring on. So that's what Ralph brought. Right.
Okay. And Michael, your situation was a little different, because Charlie Zone was with Telefilm in a number of different, call it incarnations.
Titles.
But you sort of settled in on a really good partnership with producers out of Ontario.
Yeah, I really, when you don't have money, you have to have preparation, and you have to have a great team with you. And sometimes, you know, it's all like hockey, you gotta get the right players on the ice. And how my involvement started, a producer named Hank White, who would love to be here, but he's sick today, brought me a script from a young writer named Joe LeClaire, who was a former student of mine, so I knew who Joe was, I knew he had talent. And I gave it a read, and there was another producer involved in it, Steve Mayhew. Wish Steve was here. He was the facilitator in this, and he was a producer on it, and so was Jill. And they asked me if I was interested in attaching myself as director. And I said, well, yeah, there's something here for sure. It needs tons of work. And it sort of got around to me that the funders were kind of getting ready to pull the plug on it. It had been in development for about 3 months, and 3 years, and many drafts. And I said, you know, they said, we have a little bit of money to do a draft. And it was way less than what I would usually do it for, but I believed in it, and I believed in, you know, they were friends of mine. So I said I'd take a run at it and see what came of it. And damn it, I fell in love with this stupid story. And I really felt like I wanted to see it on the screen. And that's where the passion is important, because you got to drive through the system. The system does not want to make your movie. It doesn't. It actually wants to crush your spirit. And you've got to be stronger than the system. You've got to have more passion and smarts, and you got to get the right people around you. And from there, the funders kind of said, it's getting, well, this is going from being a project that's circling the drain to a project that we want to see a production application for. And like Walter said, I thought we were going to be shooting in 6 months. Little did I know. Many drafts later, it became clear that the production team needed to change. I felt that in order for the project to move forward, it needed people that were driving forward as hard as the project deserved. And that's when Brent Barclay and Tracy Bolton got involved.
Did you reach out to them?
I reached out to them, absolutely. I worked with Brent at Sienna Films years before, and Tracy was living in New York. She's a Canadian living in New York. Tracy produced a film called Young People Fucking, which is very prominent. It got lots of hype. Quite a good film too. Yeah.
It did really well on download.
It comes up in all the porn searches, doesn't it?
Yeah. But it had a quick, drop off. Right?
Yeah. Just didn't realize that it was not really. So Tracy and Brent really believed in the story as well. And again, I thought, well, it's gonna, and then about a year from there, it looked like it was gonna happen, and a lot of rewriting, always pushing. I was telling a young filmmaker today at lunch, once the script is shot, you can never change it again. And as a filmmaker, your greatest assurance of success is nail the script. And don't necessarily wait for money to fix it, or development money. Keep making the script better. Because when you shoot it, it's done. You'll never fix it again. And then cast well. And that comes toward the end of the story as we get into the shoot. Brent passed the script along to Kirk D'Amico at Myriad Pictures in LA, who had been involved in another film of mine, so we knew each other. And I said, really, Kirk would be interested in this? He said, yes, if you can get Amanda Crew. And I was like, I had to actually IMDb search her. And then I realized, oh my God, that's this fantastic young actress who's been in films. I've always liked her in Haunting in Connecticut and Final Destination, and a lot of romantic comedies. And I said, she's not going to do this. There's no way it's a romantic comedy. And she loved it. She said, I'm dying to do something gritty and dark. And then Amanda wouldn't audition. Amanda apparently reached the point in her career where she doesn't audition for low-budget indies. She just wanted the part to be offered to her, and I was like, no. And we had this little standoff, and we're in prep at this point. And basically Brent and Tracy said, well, he said, we can still make the movie, we can defer fees, but, you know, it's your call. And I love that support. And I Skyped with Amanda and, you know, took a leap. I took a leap and I told her what it was going to require. I said, it's not glamorous. I said, it's frigid in Halifax in March. That was an understatement. And she came and nailed it. So sometimes you get lucky. And that's pretty much the way it happened. 1.2 million was our final budget. 1.234. And we've had a great life. And we're happy to be here. So.
Tony, do you have anything? I mean, we know how you pitched Phyllis, but why did you go after Buffalo Gal, or do you have anything to add in terms of the partnership piece?
Yeah, absolutely. And really, in the vein of partnerships, you know, they were vital to the success of this film. We needed a much bigger team, people with a lot more experience than Gia and I, and we could draw on their experience. So we consider that we were very lucky to have Buffalo Gal Pictures. Now, they were chosen. We were familiar with their work. They had done countless feature films. They produced the TV series Less Than Kind that I believe just finished its 5th season, and it is done now. So we knew of their experience and that they were looking to work with less experienced people, and that was kind of how they were chosen. And I noticed she was on the list for the Primetime Conference in Ottawa, and you know the rest is history. But the other part of that is too, with their experience comes a lot of connections in the industry. And you know, Mike mentioned about Myriad, Pacific Northwest Pictures, and you know, people have talked about the broadcasters, the TMN, Movie Central. And with our partnership with Buffalo Gal Pictures, we were able to get those meetings. We met with Myriad in Los Angeles. We met with PNP, also in LA. We met with Movie Central and TMN in Toronto. And we were able to get those meetings, pitch our projects, and get the funding from those people. And you know, a big part of this budget level is leveraging other funding. So you know, once you get somebody on board, whether it's Telefilm, the province, you know, other people will start to come in and you'll get slowly closer to your budget. In our case, it was very similar to Mike's film. We were 1.267358 million, to be precise. And one of the interesting things about that is we were a slightly larger budget than that, but because of the funding that was available, we had to skinny it down a little bit. We're still over that distributor trigger, the 1.25 million. So before we could go into production, we needed a distributor attached. And we were able to pitch successfully to Myriad, which is a sales agent based in Los Angeles, and they actually have a Canadian distributor called Pacific Northwest Pictures in Vancouver. And again, it's mostly, at that point, the script is important, but it's about who you have cast. We had an ensemble with 4 lead cast. Probably the biggest for them was Corey Monteith from Glee. That was, you know, he's the guy that's going to sell the movie, you know, internationally and in the U.S. and also in Canada too. So we were very fortunate. He liked the script. Very similar to what you said about Amanda. You know, this guy's he's playing an 18-year-old or 17-year-old in Glee, and he's about 30, and he was excited to play an adult, as he said. You know, in a much more gritty role than Finn on Glee. So he was thrilled that this opportunity fell into his lap, and he read the script and booked a flight and was up later the next morning. And 3 days later, we went into production. So that's it was pretty exciting.
You know, the other thing about these projects is they fit within our mandate in the region, which was to look for, try to support new talent and first features and sort of the sweet spot of budgets. And so if the budget for, let's just say, all these budgets are, say, 1.2 million. And, you know, our sweet spot is about a $500,000 contribution. And our budgets have come down a little bit in terms of my budget.